Beneath the tranquil surface of the blue hole lies a darkness few dare to explore. This natural wonder lures divers from around the globe with promises of beauty and adventure. But for Yuri, an experienced diver, his dream of exploring the infamous blue hole in Dahab turned into a devastating tragedy. From his fateful decision to dive alone to the haunting video footage recovered from his camera, Yuri's story is a chilling reminder of the dangers hidden beneath the surface. What led him to plunge into the abyss, and what secrets did his final dive reveal? This is the haunting true story of one of the world's most treacherous dive sites.
Dark greetings, love. I am your host of Gothic Sagas, where we share eerie tales of unexplained disappearances, strange occurrences, bizarre accidents, and just plain unsettling, creepy stories. If this kind of content piques your curiosity, hit the subscribe button, terrorize the like button, and ring our bell. So get comfortable, dim the lights, and let's venture into the depths where shadows dance and secrets lurk.
Meet Tarek Omar, a technical diver and instructor by profession, but informally known as the Bone Collector. He's also referred to as the Gravekeeper, and the grave he watches over is the Blue Hole in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. The Blue Hole is renowned as one of the world's top diving destinations, attracting both beginners and seasoned divers. However, it's also considered the deadliest dive site on Earth. Over the years, it's believed that at least 130 lives have been claimed by the Blue Hole, with some sources suggesting the toll could exceed 200. Since there are no official records, the true number remains uncertain, and it might be even higher. Since the late 90s, Tarek has been involved in nearly every body recovery at the site. While this doesn't represent all the divers who've perished here, it's enough that he's long since lost track of the count. After 2 decades of recovering bodies, Tarek Omar only remembers the names of the first 2 divers he retrieved shortly after moving to the nearby city, Martin Gara and Conor O'Regan. In 1997, Martin left Ireland for Egypt to spend the year working as a dive instructor, drawn by the area's incredible diving opportunities. Partway through his time there, his friend Conor joined him so they could finish out the year together. Conor was nearing the final stage of becoming a certified instructor himself. Both men were experienced and regarded as cautious, detail-oriented divers by those who knew them. Their shared passion for diving turned this trip into a trial run for a larger goal. They planned to explore the area before launching a travel agency in Ireland focused on organizing international dive tours. In November of that year, about a month before returning home, the 2 friends visited the famed Blue Hole dive site. They joined a group trip led by PADI, a global diving organization which included several professional and trained divers. During the dive, Martin and Conor became separated from the group, ending up alone in the vast underwater terrain. Somehow, in the confusion, they descended deeper than their gas mixture allowed. The mistake led to both men losing consciousness, causing their regulators to slip from their mouths. They ultimately sank to the depth of 65 meters or 213 feet. The other divers only realized something was wrong after reaching the surface, noticing that Martin and Conor had not returned on time. A search was launched immediately, but when they were finally located, it was already too late. Their tragic story mirrors countless others linked to the Blue Hole, where skilled and cautious divers venture in only to never return. But what exactly makes this site so deadly? It might be helpful to first explain exactly what a blue hole is. During the ice ages, sea levels were significantly lower, by as much as 100 meters or 330 feet compared to today. At that time, much of the Earth's land masses were exposed, revealing surface caves and sinkholes. Over time, rain eroded these limestone caves in the usual way. As sea levels rose, the process accelerated due to the corrosive action of salty seawater flowing over the rock. Many of these surface caves eventually collapsed, forming large, circular openings now submerged beneath the water's surface. These are essentially vertical caves under the sea. What's fascinating, and a bit eerie, is that the outer edge of these holes is made of more resilient rock that doesn't erode as easily as the inner portions. Within this stable realm, the holes plunge dramatically, often much deeper than the surrounding seafloor. A well-known example is the Great Blue Hole near Belize. Its edge is relatively shallow, at just 10 meters or 33 feet deep, but once you cross the rim, it drops vertically to a depth of 124 meters or 407 feet. This stark difference in depth creates the striking color contrast visible from above. Around the edges, the water appears as the bright blue typical of tropical seas, but the center becomes a dark, deep blue resembling the open ocean. Another effect of this extreme depth difference is poor water circulation within these sinkholes, particularly at the greater depths. In fact, many blue holes have bottoms entirely devoid of oxygen, making them lifeless, eerie voids compared to the vibrant marine ecosystem surrounding them. Blue holes can be found all over the world and offer unique diving conditions. They're often free from strong currents due to being isolated from surrounding waters, which removes one challenge for divers. Some are even located near the shoreline, where you can walk from the beach into shallow water and then descend hundreds of feet into the depths just a short distance away. These features make blue holes not only fascinating, but also highly accessible and convenient for divers. This ease of access, combined with their beauty, explains why they're so popular with scuba and free divers. However, it doesn't fully explain why these sites can be so deadly, especially the blue hole near Dahab, which has earned the grim nickname Diver Cemetery. Unfortunately, there isn't a straightforward answer to what makes this site so dangerous. It's unclear if the blue hole near Dahab is actually more lethal than other dive sites because no official records exist to track the number of dives or fatalities. Without this data, it's impossible to compare its fatality rate to the global average for diving. It could be inherently more dangerous, which would account for the high death toll. Alternatively, the number of fatalities might simply reflect the vast volume of dives conducted there. Regardless, the site's deadly reputation seems to attract divers rather than tour them. Its sinister allure, being both breathtakingly beautiful and perilous, is part of what draws people in. On shore, a memorial stands to honor some of the divers who have lost their lives in the blue hole. Ironically, many divers visit this somber display of plaques just before entering the water, hoping they won't become another recovery case for Tarek like Martin and Conor. Tragically, the divers recovered represent only a fraction of those who have perished. The blue hole's size and depth mean that some bodies remain lost for extended periods. By the time they are discovered, decomposition often makes recovery inadvisable. Adding to the morbid fascination, divers frequently record their dives at the blue hole. Later, while reviewing the footage, they sometimes spot abandoned gear from lost divers resting among the sand or rocks on the seafloor. One explanation for the Dahab blue hole's danger may lay in its unique structure. From the surface, its walls narrow like a funnel as they descend. At a depth of 52 meters, or 170 feet, a large arch appears on the far side of the hole. This arch leads to a 26 meter or 85 foot tunnel sloping diagonally downward, eventually opening into the open ocean. Beyond the tunnel's exit, the depths drop rapidly in increments from 120 meters or 390 feet to an astonishing 800 meters, 2,600 feet. This complex and deceptive layout contributes to the site's perilous nature. Although there are several intermediate levels, the final drop-off in the blue hole leads directly to the ocean floor. At these extreme depths, only technical diving is possible, as regular air becomes toxic. This factor may contribute to the site's danger. The steep, rapid descent from the surface makes it deceptively easy for divers using regular air to go deeper than they realize. Before they know it, nitrogen narcosis can set in, causing confusion or unconsciousness. However, it's not only divers on regular air who have fallen victim to the blue hole. Take the case of Igor in 2011. A skilled and experienced diver, Igor had completed exactly 400 dives before his fateful trip to the blue hole. His plan was to execute a technical dive to 150 meters, about 50 meters shy of the hole's full depth. After entering the water, he made his way to the arch at 50 meters, then descended further. At 90 meters, he passed another diver who noticed Igor appeared unsteady but still received an okay signal from him. From there, Igor continued down 120 meters, then 150 meters, the deepest he had ever gone. Upon reaching a ledge at 150 meters, Igor began his ascent. However, things quickly started to unravel. At 130 meters, he began to hyperventilate, which escalated into a full-blown panic. In a desperate moment, Igor made a rapid ascent to the surface, skipping critical decompression stops along the way. Such an uncontrolled ascent from that depth is incredibly dangerous and often fatal, highlighting the risk of diving in the blue hole. As Igor ascended rapidly, the gases dissolved in his bloodstream due to the immense pressure at depth, which began expanding uncontrollably. By the time he broke the surface, the expanding gases would have been causing unbearable pain, obstructing blood flow throughout his body. As his head emerged from the water, Igor screamed in agony, but just a few moments later, he succumbed to his injuries and passed away. Igor became one of the few divers Tarek did not need to recover. Perhaps another factor contributing to the blue hole's danger is the leniency and enforcement of diving regulations in the area. While diving is somewhat regulated, financial incentives can often bypass safety measures. Most dive shops in the region are licensed, but not all. Moreover, the high competition between operators drives down the cost of dives, which sometimes leads to corners being cut. Instructors and guides, though generally trained and experienced, may be willing to overlook safety rules in exchange for a little extra money, creating risky conditions for inexperienced divers. Even with this, it's still far safer to dive with a professional than to attempt a solo dive. The most infamous incident at the Blue Hole is one many may already know about, but no discussion of this site feels complete without addressing it. This tragedy occurred in April 2000, involving a man named Yuri. A scuba diving instructor, Yuri traveled to Dahab to explore the region's renowned dive spots, including the Blue Hole, which had been a dream destination for him. Before leaving, Yuri's father had made him promise to avoid reckless or dangerous behavior. With that promise in mind, Yuri, though traveling alone, sought a diving partner upon arriving in Dahab. After spending a few hours wandering the streets and visiting various dive shops, he eventually found a local willing to accompany him. Soon after, Yuri and his newfound companion arrived at the Blue Hole and entered the water. Yuri documented his dive, recording a video that begins near the water surface. The footage captures the vibrant blue water, coral reefs, and colorful fish surrounding him, along with other divers in the vicinity. At one point, Yuri adjusts his camera, appearing to attach a lens cover or protective casing, likely to shield it from the pressure he anticipated encountering. Once satisfied, he shifts his focus to two divers nearby, their regulators releasing streams of bubbles as they hover and seem to communicate silently. Yuri moves closer to these divers, nearly brushing against them before continuing onward. He points his camera towards the open water, capturing the vast, dark expanse below. From somewhere much deeper, additional bubbles rise to the surface, hinting at other divers far out of sight in the depths. Yuri begins to move towards the source of the rising bubbles in the distance. Let's skip ahead in the footage to where he stops adjusting his camera and starts his descent. At this point, Yuri redirects his focus towards another diver below him. This individual could be the local diver Yuri had enlisted to accompany him. The diver ahead is releasing a steady stream of bubbles which float upward and vanish. Yuri eventually swims past this person and shifts his gaze upward where sunlight glimmers faintly through the water's surface. Then, this focus returns downward to what appears to be the bottom of the hole. In reality, this bottom is part of the inner wall of the blue hole, and Yuri is following its contours as he descends. The water at this depth has grown noticeably darker compared to the surface above. At this point, we're going to allow the video to play uninterrupted so you can hear Yuri's breathing as he continues downward. Occasionally, the inner wall of the hole comes into view at the edge of the frame, but watch closely as the water grows progressively darker. Now's a good moment to mention that Yuri is diving with regular air. As he descends further, the effects of nitrogen narcosis would have been intensifying, impairing his judgment and coordination. Additionally, the increasing pressure at this depth would have significantly reduced his ability to control his buoyancy. The water surrounding Yuri is now so dark it's almost surreal. At one point, he checks his dive computer and it reads 81 meters, or 265 feet. For reference, diving with regular air isn't recommended beyond 40 meters, and Yuri has descended to nearly double that depth. In the following moments, Yuri appears to struggle as he moves along the ledge where he has come to a stop. It's hard to tell how aware he is of his situation. Soon, you'll hear the distinct hiss of air as he attempts to inflate his buoyancy control device. Tragically, Yuri has descended too deep, and the pressure has rendered his equipment ineffective. His gear is simply too heavy, and despite his attempts to ascend, he remains stuck. He flails briefly, possibly making a last-ditch effort to swim upward, but it's already too late. footage cuts off while Yuri is still desperately trying to navigate the horrifying situation unfolding around him.
Okay.
Roughly 40 minutes later, when Yuri hadn't surfaced, the grim reality of what had happened became clear to everyone. Yuri's parents were contacted soon after, and his father arrived in Dahab the following day. Determined to recover his son's body, he pleaded with local divers for assistance. Finally, Tarek stepped forward, volunteering for what would become the deepest recovery dive ever attempted at the time. Yuri was discovered laying face down at a depth of 91 meters or 298 feet, burdened by an excessive amount of weight that had contributed to his inability to ascend. In a tragic detail, Tarek noted that Yuri's buoyancy control device had ruptured during his desperate efforts to make himself more buoyant, rendering it completely ineffective. Yuri's body was eventually brought back to the surface, and all of his personal belongings, including his camera, were returned to his grieving parents. At the time, Tarek assumed the camera, which was rated for a maximum depth of 75 meters or 246 feet, would have been destroyed by the pressure. He had no reason to believe it had captured any usable footage. Sadly, as you've seen, the camera not only survived, but recorded everything. This footage was subsequently played in front of Yuri's mother and father, an experience that haunted everyone involved. Reflecting on it later, Tarek admitted that if he had known the camera was functional, he would have destroyed it himself to spare Yuri's family the additional pain. The final 5 seconds of the recording were inadvertently captured the next day when someone attempted to check if the camera was still operational. Today, Yuri's footage serves as a chilling warning to divers about the inherent dangers of scuba diving, particularly in places like the Blue Hole. What stands out most about the video is the abruptness with which everything changes. One moment the water is clear, calm, and inviting. The next, it's oppressive, pitch-black void. The transition is so sudden that by the time danger becomes apparent, it's already far too late. Perhaps this stark contrast is what makes the Blue Hole near Dahab so perilous. The tranquil conditions at the surface lull divers into a false sense of security, concealing the deadly challenges that lie beneath.
And that will do it for today. Thank you for watching and hanging out. It really means a lot to me. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And we look forward to seeing you next time. But until then, blessings and positive energy to you, love.